This isn't revision, it's restoration. This is blackwashed history. We carry the names, the songs, the truths they tried to erase, telling it like it really was, and still is. Where echoes of the past rise up with power, and every story we uncover is a step towards justice. So lean in, let the ancestors speak, and let the truth be heard. Only here on Blackwashed History.
Why does April echo so loud in our history? Because this is the month where Black hands lit the flames of rebellion, where Black voices were silenced and still found a way to sing, where laws were passed not to grant us freedom, but to acknowledge we were already fighting for it. You won't hear these stories in your average history class, but that's okay, because today I'm not talking about average, I'm talking about blackwashed. As the month of April comes to a close, I want to pull back the curtain on the revolts, resistance, and rhythms that shaped this month in Black history, and honoring the power of poetry to tell the truth when the world won't. So welcome to Blackwash History. My name is Brittany Wilkins, where my mission and goal is to uncover lesser known aspects of Black history, uncover the stories soaked in truth, resilience, and Black brilliance, stories too often rinsed out by mainstream history or whitewash history. So again, as this month comes to a close, I just want to take a moment to reflect with you guys, not just on the changing season, but on the powerful history April holds in the Black experience. Because this month gave us uprising and laws, it gave us legends and lyrics. And even now, its echoes remind us that resistance isn't reserved for the past. So in this episode, I want to honor the Black history moments that unfolded in April and celebrate as well National Poetry Month that gives us rhythm and voice to that legacy. It was April 6, 1712, when the slaves rebelled. Over 20 enslaved Africans set fire to a building and fought back against their captors in New York City. This was known as the New York Slave Revolt, where 9 white colonists were killed. But at what cost? It was brutal retaliation. 70 people were arrested, 27 were executed. This wasn't a revolt. It was a message that even in chains, the human spirit fights back. The rebellion may have failed, but the message was loud and clear. We will not be owned. Chains on the wrists, flames in the sky. They called it a riot, we called it a cry. From riots to wars. It was on April 9th, 1865, when the Civil War ended. General Robert E. Lee, he surrendered. This was framed as a Union victory, but it was also a Black victory because nearly 200,000 Black men fought in blue uniforms, fighting for a country that barely acknowledged them, yet still laying the bricks of freedom, serving and protecting people like you and I. You know, they say the path to wealth and living out the American dream is through home ownership. But for decades, Black families and individuals have faced many different aspects of housing discrimination, from redlining to unfair appraisal bias to mortgage loan denials. But it was on April 11, 1968, when the Fair Housing Act was signed. After those decades of redlining, the housing discrimination, the law said no more. But as you've seen, even with laws, it doesn't stop injustice. They only expose it. Today, Black families still face many discriminatory practices when it comes to home ownership, still getting pushed to the edges of opportunity. The zip code may change, but the system is still so very familiar today. The Black race, despite what it's been up against, hasn't achieved some incredible milestones throughout history. With a glove, a bat, and a quiet fury. On April 15th, 1947, Jackie Robinson breaks the color barrier, forever changing the way and the game of baseball and the inclusion of Black athletes. But he just didn't break a barrier. He cracked open the door of opportunity for other Black athletes in other major sports, because for every swing he took, he also took an insult, a threat, a burden too many never saw. Since the beginning of slavery, the Black race has been under immense racial terror and oppression by opposing forces, with little to hardly no protection from the United States government. But it was on this day when the United States government decided to take a stand. On April 20th, 1871, the Ku Klux Klan Act was signed. President Ulysses S. Grant gave federal power to fight white supremacy during Reconstruction. And what this meant was that troops could arrest and prosecute Klan members when states refused to act. But let's ask ourselves, even still today, are we still fighting with opposing forces? Isn't it just still the same system, but just a different generation and different methods? They wear robes or suits, but either way, they still gather. But we remember the law that dared to shatter. It's not just revolts and wars and movements that unify people. It is also through music that unifies people. So before hip hop, before Motown, there was Duke. Born April 29th, 1899 in Washington, D.C., Edward Kennedy, Duke Ellington didn't just write music. He rewrote the rules. With jazz in his veins and swing in his soul, Duke took Black music from the back rooms of clubs to the front row of concert halls around the world. He just wasn't entertaining, he was elevating. His sound was sophisticated. His presence was very powerful. Duke proved that Black excellence could be elegant, unapologetic, and global, because music just wasn't art, it was a declaration. He wasn't just a musician, he was a movement in a tuxedo who paved the way for the many great musicians and artists we have today. Now let's breathe. Take a moment to breathe in the art, because Black history is poetry. It's poetry in motion, it's poetry in pain, and it's poetry in power. Her name was Phyllis Wheatley. She was enslaved, but she learned Latin, Greek, and poetry. Phyllis Wheatley became the first African-American woman to publish a book in 1773. Her pen defied chains. Her words reached presidents. She wasn't just writing, she was rewriting history. Before Langston, before Maya, There was Dunbar. He wrote in dialect. He wrote in standard English. He wrote about pain, love, and struggle and pride. We wear the mask, he said, and he taught the world to see what was beneath it. Tears of pain, tears of oppression. What happens to a dream deferred? Langston Hughes turned that question into a movement. Harlem's heartbeat, America's conscience. He made jazz into a verse into protest. This was poetry with rhythm and resistance. Black poets have given us the words when the world has tried to take our breath. And if you're listening right now, you are part of the rhythm. We speak in stanzas when our stories are denied. We write in verses so our truth won't hide. So I encourage you, not only this month, but every month, support a Black poet. Read a line that lingers. Share a voice that echoes. As April winds down, we remember this month not just for the showers and blossoms, but for its boldness, for the rebellions that rose, the laws that were signed, the artists who composed freedom into form. We've looked back at some moments that shaped our path, but more importantly, reminding us that Black history doesn't just live in the past. It lives in the poems we write today, the battles we are fighting today, and the stories we just refuse to forget. So as we head into May and beyond, let's carry April with us, its legacy, its lessons, its power. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. Today's episode taught you something or reminded you of what you already knew. Share it, pass it on, be the echo. Until next time, stay rooted, stay real, and stay blackwashed. History isn't behind us, it's beneath us.
Another chapter unveiled. This is Blackwashed history, not just stories of the past, but mirrors for the now. If this moved you, share it with someone who needs to learn and remember their history. Until next time, stay bold, stay rooted, and never stop listening for the voices beneath the silence.